Welcome back, everybody, to the Burst on the Scene podcast with me, Lewis Williams.
And me, Joel Valentin. What an episode. New year, new episode. What a way to start.
Yeah, very different one. First coach, first gaffer, and also not your everyday kind of football manager gaffer. Works at a school now.
Yeah.
And come through the academy system at Arsenal with the Invincibles.
Yeah.
And is now trying to create something a bit different.
Yeah.
And no, it was very interesting.
Yeah, very unique sort of perspective on young footballers and how they can progress in the best way to do so. And very different to what an academy is in terms of the holistic aspect of it.
Yeah, and he was very keen on that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Really, but it was really good. And our first away day.
Yeah, first away day up in Repton in Derby.
Yeah.
Nice little, obviously a private school.
Nice part of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't see anything for a bit, and then suddenly this massive village came up in the school.
State of the art school. Yeah. Bonkers. But no, it was a good experience, and hopefully you guys enjoy listening to that. What about Luton? What a couple of weeks it's been over the festive period.
Back right in form at the moment. Should have got something against Chelsea, but 3 against Newcastle, 3 against Sheffield United, back-to-back wins in the Premier League. It isn't something that's easy to do. So we're flying at the moment.
You finally look like now
we're going to stay up.
You're going to stay up.
Everyone on Talks, but everyone you listen to, it gives us a real good chance now. FA Cup this weekend.
You're not in it yet, so you're next round, is that right?
We're in it. We're in tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Bolton at home tomorrow.
You got Bolton at home. Tough team to play, Bolton. Got Sheezy in there.
But with FA Cup, a lot of people are saying the FA Cup sort of losing its magic. But for me, I think coming from a Luton fan and a Newport fan, it's massive part. One of my favourite times of the year is FA Cup third round draw.
Oh yeah, when you get through. We've had some bad ones in the years by. We've had Police, we play the Police in the second round. And then you get through and you get a massive game.
Yeah, exactly.
We've had Leicester,
City,
Tottenham, City, Middlesbrough at home. We've had some massive teams.
But it's massive for youngsters as well, because a lot of youngsters get their chance. We talked to Connor Hall. He got his chance in the FA Cup.
Yeah, and you saw it with Newport in the Carabao against Brentford with Keegan Rice. So there you go. But no, I'm massively nervous. We've got Eastleigh at home today, and they've obviously beaten Reading. Yeah. To get to play us.
You're a cup team.
We are a bit of a cup team.
Anyway, New Year. What we're expecting from these episodes? We've got some really, really exciting guests. What we're expecting? Big things.
Yeah, obviously we've got an idea of who we're gonna get in. We're not gonna say yet.
I'm really excited.
We're not gonna say yet, but we've got some good guests lined up.
Yeah.
And we're talking players at right
at
the very, very top. But I think what we want is we just want to carry on, because we've enjoyed it so far.
We're really enjoying it. This one was one of the most interesting as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And
really,
we're still
really
improving as well.
Yeah,
we're getting better,
100%.
I think, every episode.
Yeah.
I think definitely with the Pasky one, that was probably the questions were a level above.
Yeah.
I think. And this one again is very different, so it's hard to compare, 100%. But I think we're getting better and better.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoy it. Obviously, if you have any interactions, please let us know. There's a Q&A on the Spotify just below, and we're on Instagram and TikTok now, so do let us know what you think of the episodes, because as much as we enjoy doing them, we want to make them interesting for the listeners.
Absolutely.
But yeah, really hope you enjoy it. Luke Webb, let's get him in.
Enjoy.
Right, Luke Webb, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it, and I'm really excited to just share your story and delve more into the detail of it, because it's had such an impact on mine and so many players' lives, and it's really, really insightful to share the story, and really excited to get it going. We're here at Repton. We drove in the school here. Lou, you're a bit amazed by the surroundings.
Yeah, slightly different to what we're used to. I think going from your kitchen to almost a medieval sort of
460-year-old independent school.
That'll be the one. Yeah.
There's some Viking kings buried here as well.
Really? Wow.
I don't know if you've watched Last Kingdom on Netflix, but this is the centre of Mercia.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw that sign on the way in. Fair enough. Bit of history as well. Perfect. So we're gonna. Usually we start by sort of discussing your early influences in sort of football. So what were they?
That's a good question. Early influences. Well, my parents always say to me that I just love football ever since I was younger. So what would my influences be? It would probably be the game itself. Just obviously I just saw it when I was about 4 years old and just wanted to play it. Did the fact that my family were involved in football have an influence? Maybe not. I don't think you can ever prove that either way.
Nature or nurture question.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think I got to spend time with both my granddads were pros. My dad was a pro. My mum worked in the journalism side of football, so we were around the sport all the time. So that might have had a big influence as well. So they're the early influences. But then as you go through, and as I'm a bit wiser now, I realise that the names that I've been involved with, like coaches and managers, they were not that big of influence really. Like if you ask someone who was your biggest influence as an educator, a teacher, if they really think about it, they're not going to say a famous person. It's going to be that teacher that no one's ever heard of that just got you. And for me, I had a few. I had a guy called David Downs who coached me under 11. He actually coached my dad at under 11 as well. This was before the academy system started. It was called Reading Schoolboys at the time. And then when the academy started, all of that team became Reading Academy's team. He was just purity of football, this game that we all love, that we also don't like at the same time because people treat it really badly. But he was just pure, gave you just pure advice, and actually you studied the game with him, even if you didn't realise it. And the next one was my under-14s coach at Arsenal, a guy called Andy McDermott, who sadly passed away 13 years ago. But a lot of the stuff he taught me, I use now in my coaching. It was just magical what he saw in the game. He taught me like third man running properly, the concept of it, which is such an amazing attacking solution to have as well. But yeah, obviously I was at clubs that had big managers, but they weren't influential on me in any way. It was just those coaches and those teachers who just get you and just allow you to be you.
Did you feel any pressure, with the sort of family line of, being footballers? Because obviously you have famous names like Beckham's and then the children going through Millfield and not making or whatever. Did you have that sort of pressure early doors?
Yeah, people ask me that all the time, and I honestly, I didn't feel any pressure from my family in any way. And I guess you get it a lot with parents who have been through it as pros. They know how to then be parents in sport. They get it, that they're not trying to live their life through you because they've already done it already, so they don't need to. So, I mean, my mum, she was very academic, and I guess that's where I got my drive to learn and want to explore other things. And my dad, obviously, with his football, he came from a pure time. Like Brian Clough for him was his biggest, best influence, and that was a pure time of football. When he used to come and watch me, he would stand like 30 metres back from the touchline and never stand with the other parents. I'm guessing he didn't want them to just talk to him about the past all the time. So, and then I knew he was there and I knew he was watching me, but he wanted to watch me, and then he would give me like one bit of advice in the car on the way home, not really tell me what to do, and that was it. And I guess that's when I watch my children, that's how I would want to be, where I just say to them afterwards, I just enjoyed watching you, thank you, and that's it. And I say it to parents a lot now, because obviously I coach, and I say to parents, you be the parent and I'll be the coach.
The line's sort of muddy sometimes. I think that's probably where it goes wrong, doesn't it?
But no pressure. I think the pressure for me that I felt, which was so heavy, was one, on myself, and two, the system, the academy system, just put a ridiculous amount of pressure on me and all of us in that system, where we just had to perform at a level that was unrealistic every day for a young child to do that. So I think they were the biggest pressures.
And what was it like? Obviously, you moved to Arsenal. What was it like? You said like the pressures. Was there a time when you sort of did realise that how hard it is to become a pro, or were you sort of? We talked a lot about they don't realise until it's too late. What was it like when you were there? Were you just focus on becoming a pro and everything, and not really thinking about other sort of pathways after?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think for me, the system made me want to be a pro.
Yeah.
Not me. I just wanted to play, and I loved just playing and practicing, and I got really good once people showed me what to practice. So that Andy, that under 14s coach that I talked to you about, he introduced me to the size 1 stuff, which I showed you when you worked with me, and the skipping and these space concepts of attacking. And once he showed me that, I went away and just practiced, and I loved that season. I didn't think about, I want to, because that's when the England team starts selecting under 15. I want to get an England team, or I want to get my next contract. I was just loving becoming this unbelievable footballer, and I wasn't thinking, I want to be an unbelievable footballer. I was just like, this is so cool that I'm getting better every day in an environment where I have the best players in the UK around me, and I'm getting better as well, and I'm becoming one of the best ones. That's really good fun. But then as you get a little bit older, and let's say you have a coach that is a bit more outcome orientated, it really unintentionally they do flip your mindset to contracts, get ahead of your mate. You're not worth anything unless you're getting that next contract, or you're playing for England, or whatever. And that always was like a paradox in my mind, where I was like, this feels horrible, but I love playing. But this feels horrible, and I love playing. It's like, do I have to have this to have this? Do I have to have both? And I didn't have the guidance and support of someone saying to me, Luke, it's okay, you always have football. You don't need to be a pro to always have football. And if you become a pro, great. And if you don't become a pro, great. Which is what I now say to young people. Let's just become the best you can be, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that, so that pressure then ramped up. I think that emotional, mental pressure then had a massive effect on my physical conditioning, because I had to retire through injury. Right. I had so many injuries from 15 years old until I retired at 21, 22. And like, the mind is the most powerful thing, isn't it? So it can, if that's stressed, it's going to cause stress. So I think there's great people in the academy system. It's just the way the system is designed it's not designed for people to thrive in it. It's designed to actually just hurt people. Yeah. Unintentionally.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff are you doing now to sort of guard against that with your lads? Is it just honest chats, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that, it's impossible to sum up what it is, because it's daily.
Yes.
It's, first of all, you as the mentor, coach, educator, have to increase your toolbox. So like, people say, how do you coach, or how do you mentor, how do you educate? It's like, well, in every way. Just depends on the moment, depends on the person, depends on what they need at that time. So my job is to become amazing at all styles of coaching, to become amazing at all styles of psychology, of language, what words I use, when, at what time. Is it right for me to circle back with a player and sit down with them one-on-one and see how they are? Or is it right for me to hold them accountable at that moment because it's not good enough for where they want to be? Like, what's right at that moment? Also asking them, do you want to go to this level? Because if you do, I'll need to push you a little bit more. Where we had that, didn't we? I knew you wanted to try and get to the highest level, so I treated you a bit harsher than I would treat someone who just wanted to play football and become really good at it, but not actually take it any further. So you then, for me, knowledge and wisdom is really important. So you need to learn knowledge. So I have a football syllabus that I've written. Joel, what version would that have been? How many years ago was it that you were in it?
I first got it in 2017 to 2019.
2017 to 2019. So I'm on the 15th version now. So that would be 5 years ago. So 10th version. He got the 10th version of that book, right? Wow. Which I then iterate every year based on what I've learned. I also have a human, I call it human and performance education syllabus, which is psychology basically. But I'm not a psychologist, which is why it's not a psychology syllabus. That's why I call it human syllabus. Yeah. Teach you how to be basically.
Yeah, it's more holistic.
More holistic, yeah. And also performance. Like performance, we all have to perform, whether it's sitting down for an exam or doing a music recital or going out and playing for a first team in an ISFA Cup game, which is really pressurised, by the way, as you know, because the whole school just want you to do well. So we all need to perform every day. So I just think people need to be guided on how to perform better. So I have those things that I always refer back to, So if I'm struggling as a coach, like, what do I need to work on with this individual or this team, I'll read through my own work and go, oh yeah, that would be more suited. Same with psychology. Or what value do they need to work on their vulnerability or their courage or whatever. And I do it from a selfish point of view as well, because I forget stuff. So that's why I write stuff down. Yeah. And when I reread my stuff, I'm like, oh wow, that's quite in depth.
Yeah.
But then I also have to have the courage to go, oh, that actually didn't work this year. Let's get rid of that and let's add something else that did work. So that's, I still have way more to say about that, but the summary of your question of what do, I become the best educator I can so I can adapt in the moment to what the young person needs. Mm-hmm. And my motive is not one outcome. My motive is not professional football. However, that is a possible outcome. My motive is, I honestly believe, so I do not believe in natural talent, I honestly believe that every human being has the most unbelievable potential. And if football is the thing they love and want to get involved with, and to use, because remember, people say they love football, but you can't actually love something that's subjective. You can't. It's not, because it can't get anything back. It's not a human thing.
Yeah.
So yes, you can love doing it, but you're not in love with football. So that it's okay to identify that and use football. I will use football, my participation in it, to become something way more powerful, i.e. excellent human being, courageous human being.
Sure. And where did the idea for the sort of, I don't know what the term would be, Bible or syllabus or whatever you call it, because I know that
there are other religions available.
Yeah. Because I know Mourinho did something similar. And then Eddie Howe was talking about when he had the year hiatus after losing the Bournemouth job, because he used to take notes from every single training session he did, he compiled them into what would be his own sort of Bible. Yeah. So it sounds quite similar. So was that something you'd heard about, or was that something you did off your own accord?
It probably started when I was doing my UEFA B licence, actually. So that's the licence when you're doing your coaching badges, that it gets really serious. At level 1, level 2, you kind of learn how to structure a session. But UEFA B, you have to know your stuff and you have to study the game a bit more. And they kind of said on that course, they were like, come up with your way, your philosophy, your thing that you want to do. And I always liked writing anyway, so I was like, yeah, great, I'm going to write down some ideas. No, what you were saying, what Eddie was doing with his sessions. So I have a separate one for that. So session plans is separate. The actual syllabus of the game itself. And it was only about 5-6 years ago where, and I think if I hadn't have started it 15 years ago, I would never have understood where I was at to then go further.
Yeah, it's a useful reference point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A coach educator who invited me in to deliver to all their coaches at a Cat 1 Academy recently made a really good point. I laid out all the books when I delivered, and I said, the thing is, I have progressed as a coach each year. So this is evidence that I have actually got better. The content is better. And he said at the end to his coaches, he was like, yeah, because what we don't want from you guys is in 15 years' time, you're the same coach, just 15 years of experience. We don't want that.
Yeah.
We want you to be 15 years elevated.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we want in any walk of life as well.
Sure.
So I started it, and then, like I said, from a selfish point of view, I was like, it became an obsession. Every Easter, when the season finishes, I spend 4 weeks going through it. I make notes on my phone throughout the season of anything I need to revisit and add, anything I've learned based on a game or a tactic or a psychological thing that has helped. And then I go through all of them and I read through it and I think which one would work for next season. And then I rewrite all of them and then I deliver it to the players again. And I always say, and I think I said this to you guys, I say, you're so lucky because you've got the best version of me. Which is true. I mean, you literally have each year, because I do my due diligence to make myself, I guess this word is scary to people, but the word is enlightened. I can see more than I saw last year, which means I can notice more, which means I can act more or less if I need to not act less. And I think that's how you become a better teacher of something.
Sure. And then we talked about the pressures of being in an academy and that sort of they always give you that pro contract or whatever to work towards. How do you think, sort of, we've talked about non-league players that have come from non-league and not had that pressures, that played with their friends until they were 16, 17 and then gone into the professional game image. Do you think it's better, you can prosper more in that, or do you think when you've got sort of that pro contract within a club to work towards?
Yeah, so my answer, hardly anyone in the game will agree with this. But I guess that's because I've seen, like I was saying, I've seen things and then studied that and then seen more things. So I used to think pressure, you needed it to be able to perform under pressure. Like, in the Italians, like I heard Gianluca Vialli say once, we eat pressure for breakfast. Like, we want to be under pressure constantly, so we learn to be able to deal with it. And I went through my whole young football life, I was under pressure all the time. Like, all the time, and I never got better at dealing with it. So obviously I wasn't becoming used to it. I guess it's a bit like when you drink alcohol, that actually your liver just gets worse. You don't become tolerant to alcohol. It's a myth. So I think it's a myth that you become tolerant to pressure. Because then I came across this guy called Rich Hudson who works in cricket. He's not that well known, but you'll be able to find his books online. And he just presented pressure in a completely different way, where he just said the best are not the ones who can deal with pressure the most, they're the ones that can reduce the pressure the most. And then I started studying that, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting concept. How do I reduce the pressure? And then I started, because I can't play football anymore because of my injuries, but golf is my thing that I'm quite good at, and I play F1, so I'm trying to get down to scratch.
Wow,
and
okay.
yeah. And I remember a few years ago, it was one of my first under par rounds. I was 3 under on the 18th tee, and it was out of bounds on the right. And I almost dropped the club when I swung. I was so nervous. And that really showed me then that, I can't deal with pressure. My body was paralysed. It could not do it.
Yeah.
And we've got these young people going out every week who have to perform to get contracts, but they are crippled. They're at probably 30-40% of their potential each week. Premier League players, I reckon, are around that every week. And then you'll get the old school people going, oh, it's survival of the fittest. It's the ones who can deal with it. Like, the ones who have made it are the ones that can deal with it the most. I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think they're the ones that have been able to reduce it the most. Yeah. I mean, how can Roger Federer serve an unbelievable ace at match point at Wimbledon? Yeah. How can Tiger Woods make a 20-foot putt? There's no way they could do that if they felt the weight of pressure. They would have to remove it. Yeah. So I now try and remove it, and I try and help people remove it. So in answer to your question, does it help having that outcome pressure? I don't think so at all. And in answer to your question earlier, Lewis, as well, that what do I do? So I told you what I do, but in terms of the system I create, I believe that to be truly excellent, and you might want to use the word elite. Elite is such a silly word, though, I think, because truly elite is like the best in the world. So there's not many people that are truly elite. Yeah. Exactly. So I like using the word excellence. And my definition of excellence is to be able to use your resources that you have to transcend the environment you're in. So progression, basically. So what do I do? Why do I work in a school and not an academy? Why? Like, people ask me all the time, why do you do that? And it's not easy, because I don't get a lot of respect from clubs working in school. Everyone thinks I'm rubbish in the football world because I work in a school. And for me, you cannot be excellent at your craft, as excellent as you could be, if you don't have a normal upbringing. And that, where people say, oh, so-and-so made it because their upbringing was really tough. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about every day you wake up and you're around friends and you go to school and it's consistent and you're safe. It's a consistency of syllabus where you know what you're getting. You're not having to go to this club and then you get released there and have to go to that club and then you have to chase it there and have to chase it there. It's like no young person can deal with that at all. So why do I do it in a boarding school? Because they live here. They're here 24/7. So they are, I know we could say it's not normal because it's like only whatever it is, a small percentage of people go to private schools. And yes, that is the worst thing about the places that I've worked, is how much it costs to go there. But if you can just ignore that and just go, okay, if you had a blank slate, what would you create? You would create an independent boarding, not independent, but you would create a boarding school with amazing facilities that were equivalent to a football club facilities, where you could study whatever academics you wanted to study, develop socially as a young person with your friends, live with each other across sport, not just football friends.
Yeah.
And eat together and have amazing teachers that you can challenge and vibe off, and tutors. And then when you had your football time, you did elite football or excellent football at the same time. So I think that normal... I remember people in your year, Joel, would say to me, especially like people like yourself who came from academies into the system of mine, would say, oh, I remember how to learn again. I remember how to learn football again. And that's a weird paradox, right?
Yeah.
The academy system, where these are the best young people in the country, aren't learning football because they're so blocked in their learning because of the pressure of all the external stuff.
Yeah.
So what I am able to do, because there's no contracts in my system, you don't get released from my system once I offer you the chance to be on it, because I have to be careful. I can't offer everyone a chance to be on it, because if your physical attributes or your talent at that point is not there, you're going to drown, and I don't want anyone to drown. But if you're good enough to come on it, and I offer you a chance to be on it, you're never going to get released from it. If you're struggling at any point, if it's 5 years or 2 years, if you're in the sixth form, it's my job to help you find your talent.
Yeah.
And that's what's helped me become a much better coach. And I say this to academy coaches all the time. I'm like, go somewhere where you're not allowed to release players. And then you will find out if you're a good coach or not. Because you cannot give up on people.
Yeah. It's slightly Maslowian, isn't it? Because you've got the basic sort of safety level, and then from there you can nurture. But if you're at an academy where every game is like a trial, and you're constantly on a show, you can never progress up the pyramid.
And Maslow's final bit of his pyramid is self-actualization.
Sure.
But how can you ever achieve self-actualization under pressure?
Yeah.
You can't ever be the best version of yourself, ever.
Yeah.
You're drowned.
Sure, yeah. Going back to sort of then the sort of Arsenal sort of days and going through the academy and sort of the fellow players that you were with, noticed there were some sort of international players. At what ages are they sort of coming through?
So that would have been when we went full time, so as under 17s, I guess, in sixth form in school sense. And yeah, I remember we'd all been together from like 10 years old, our group, and then they said to us, oh yeah, we're bringing a few players from abroad. And someone said to me, one of the coaches said to me, oh yeah, we're bringing the best player in the world in your position. I was like, oh great. So because I wasn't in that learning environment where it was, oh yeah, I can't wait to like we can learn from each other and it will be so good, because it's like, oh, he's going to take my place. It makes me feel horrible. And obviously that person was Cesc Fabregas, and I had no problem with Cesc because he was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He understood football, he understood space, which is in my model now that I teach is the number one constraint of the game, space. It's something that is so simple but no one really understands. Attacking space and defensive space. When I watch football now, I'm watching it with people and I'm like, oh, did you see the lack of understanding of attacking space? Or did you see the lack of understanding of space? No, what are you talking about? It's like, honestly, all the mistakes start with that, and all the success comes from understanding it. And I just remember thinking, he wasn't that fast, he wasn't that strong, he wasn't that tall, but you just couldn't get near him, ever. And then because obviously he was in our changing room for a bit, and got to talk to him a bit when he was learning English, and he would just talk to us about La Masia and what they learned at Barcelona, and they learned the game. And this is when people say to me, what's your philosophy, Luke? It's the game. And this is where it's progressed a tiny bit. It's still similar to when I coached you, but I've learned that it can't be one way. And it was kind of like that when I coached you, but it's developed more that my whole philosophy now is based on the truth. And I know the truth is subjective, but the truth of a game is not subjective. Now, whether we know the truth of the game as human beings yet is another thing. So we might not understand the game fully, because there are so many combinations when you have 22 people that can all go in different directions and the ball can go in. So it's a very complicated game. But I am exploring the truth of the game. And when I coach young people, if I coach them one way of playing, then they will not be able to adapt when they go to their next thing. So when people look at teams that I coach and go, oh no, but you're a possession-based team, or you're a high-pressing team. It's like, no, that's just because those things more often than not give you the most control. But that's not what we will do if the solution is not that in front of us. And actually people I coach struggle with that to start with, don't you? Because you think that I just want you to play short all the time, and actually if they've got a high line and they're on the halfway line,
you're going to adapt.
Yeah. Why would you play short?
Yeah.
You would never play. You would always play into the space, because space is the number one constraint of the game. So like when I see City sometimes playing short when the opposition have got such a high line, I'm like, why? Just work on your double movement, your runs from your diagonal run to a straight or straight to diagonal, and just get amazing at that. And I remember, so I love watching Guardiola versus Klopp over the years, like whatever teams they were playing. And I remember Dortmund, Bayern, Pep just went 2 up front in the end, because Dortmund was so good at pressing, like high press was so good. And obviously he'd come from Barcelona, and the tiki-taka was just unbelievable. And yeah, listen, you still can get out of a high press playing amazing, but this risk is so high. And he just put 2 up front, because in the early days he couldn't beat that Dortmund side, which was really interesting. And they just kept pummeling balls over the top, but really accurately, and got success. And I was like, yeah, because that's the game. When people say, oh, we shouldn't play this way, or that's anti-football, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Anti-football, what does that mean? The game is whoever can score more goals and concede fewer goals. So whoever can do that wins football. There is not one way of doing it. Did I answer it? Have I gone off tangent? We were talking about the players, the foreign players. Sorry, foreign players. So, yes, Cess. Amazing. I guess my issue was more, and this is more, I guess, a philosophical thing for young English players, was when they brought foreign players over who weren't as good as us. Because what ended up happening, you bring foreign players over, at that age, you have to pay them well. You're rehoming them, basically, aren't you? And they're still children, they're under 18, so you pay them more weekly wages, you sort out their accommodation, sort out their family, etc. So it's an investment. So from a business point of view, and this is what I didn't understand as a kid, but now I understand, from a business point of view, you're going to want to push that investment hard, right? Because if you're the person who made that decision and that investment doesn't work out, then you're going to be in trouble. People are going to accuse you of wasting money. Whereas if it's an apprentice English kid who's on 90 quid a week who doesn't work out, well, who cares? Because we've got loads of those. So those guys, and it was the Invincibles were the first team when I was an apprentice. Those guys got to train with them a lot. And God, if you train with them a lot, you're going to become
exposure,
really good.
Yeah.
I got to train with them, I would say, over my 2 years, maybe 8-9 times. And
what was that like?
Yeah, it was just, I'm so thankful for that. No matter what I felt going through the academy system, I'm so thankful to be exposed to what truly elite look like in football.
Yeah.
Because I think you don't know what you don't know, right? So unless you've seen it, how do you know it's possible? And I know people say like seeing is believing, but sometimes you got to have faith. But when you talk about knowledge, how do you know football can be played that fast with that much intelligence unless you have seen it? It's like when I first got shown one of the players when I was 14, that coach I was talking about, juggling while skipping. And that's why I used to give to all you guys, right? The size 1 stuff. And I was like, whoa, that's possible. And then I spent 3 months practicing it and then could do it. So sometimes you do need to see it. So it's what I say to parents when they come on my programme. Like, yes, we're not a football club, but I will give you the level of the top football club in the world because I have seen it. And then it was my job to then study it, to deliver it in a way that you understood it, no matter what your level was. But yeah, I mean, those guys, like the rondos were a joke. How tight it was, and how fast, how smooth every pass was, how the contact on the ball, the basic techniques of the game, and then, I mean, their athleticism was a joke. I mean, they were like gods. I always say there's 3 people that I've seen walked past in football, like when we were just about ready to play, and I was like, whoa, imagine if you had those physical attributes. Omri, Drogba and Anelka. Those 3 were like physical gods. Their genetics were just so much better than everyone else's. but they were another level. But I'm so thankful for that. And I always say to anyone, no matter what industry you want to go in, if you have a chance to spend a month, 2 months, just shadowing an elite person, just do it.
Yeah.
For free, or pay them. Just do it, because it will then springboard your life. Your possibilities then suddenly become and then you use your intelligence to go to those places.
We mentioned when you talked about the academy players are sort of just footballers, and you mentioned when people come to the schools they're sort of more than a footballer. Do you think, like, it's a quote that I've probably said myself and a lot of people have said, but they've gone from being an academy and just like being at their own school, and people at their school just, they miss schools to go and play football, so they're just known at their school as, he plays football, not much else. And then you go to sort of Bradford in my instance, and you become just a normal person, not just a footballer. Do you think there's a way of obviously I think it's massively beneficial, but do you think there's a way of having that within an academy system, and you need to have that educational aspect as well? Do you think that's something that can be added and something that's really beneficial to the young players?
Yeah, that is an amazing question, because theoretically the answer is yes. I mean, in theory, it's the human beings that develop in their behaviour. The people in authority, behaviour is what affects culture. So if their behaviour is demonstrating a certain way, then then the argument would then be, okay, is the system then too powerful, even if someone was amazing at educating in an academy? Because I guess I had it when I've worked in schools as well, where I would create an elite or an excellence environment in the football team, not just in football, but in how they approached learning. But then if they went to a class, a French class or a maths class, where the teacher didn't push them to the level, then actually, if they're in those bits more than in my bit, then are they just learning how to be average? And my bit's like it's great every now and again, but it's not actually instilling culture. Don't know. I know I have some really good friends in academies who are really good coaches and really good people who care about the kids, and they can't. When I consult for academies and the ones who are fearless and actually want to explore it, a lot of them don't. They just want their way. But there are a few that don't have fear and they want to know how to do it better. I just say to them, it has to be a normal school. Not like when I was at Arsenal, I got sent to a state school. Yeah. Not that, because then I was just an Arsenal boy at that school. I guess you guys had that at Forest.
We had Forest, yeah. I didn't go personally.
Yeah, so they had that. For me, that doesn't work because you're not normal there. You don't really participate in the school. You're just
there for half a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a few clubs have tried to do it at their training ground, where you do full-time education at your training ground for like 12 years old. Doesn't work because you're not around other people. You're just around those football people, and it's too one-dimensional. That's not holistic. I mean, diversity is the most amazing thing for creation, isn't it? You need diversity of thought. Manchester City try and do it with St. Bede's. They do it with a private school where they send all their kids from, I think, under 12 to under 16. Doesn't work because they're Man City boys going to that school. So I don't think I'll be able to do this in my lifetime or convince anyone to do it. And I'm not going to have enough money to do it myself, so I don't think it will be possible. But imagine if a city... So I guess it's similar to Barcelona, but I would say at an even more normal level than Barcelona, because La Masia it's just the elite sports people, isn't it? It's not normal people go as well. Yeah. So imagine if... Let's take Reading, for example, because that's where we're all from, okay? So Reading football... So, no, not Reading football. Reading as a town, right, built a school where the elite... the people on the elite pathway of football, of netball, of hockey, of music, of maths, of French, of everything, all went to that school. So you would have a normal schooling the football players and the netball players and everyone have to do their academics. The academics would do their sport, but they would be doing it as a hobby rather than a progress. So you would do your excellence thing at a high level, and then you would do your other things as your holistic development. And then if you got released, which I hate that word, but if you were told you're not on that pathway anymore, then you could go into the school.
Yeah.
And well, you're in the school. Anyway, that would... I mean, what an experiment that would be. Because I don't think there's any risk to that experiment. What's the risk? There's no risk.
Yeah, because there's a plan B, there's a safety net.
There's safety net.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the American university system where there's scholarships, but then they have to complete their studies. I know there's a program, Last Chance U. Have you ever watched that?
Yeah.
And then you have sort of the coach who's often quite sort of a hard ass, but then you also have like the mum who's sort of looking after them, and then the studies they have to do all sorts of subjects, not just their one degree. Yeah. So I guess I'd sort of equate that to something similar.
Well, the American system is the best of a bad situation.
Yeah.
So the structure, in essence, is the best. It's in line with what we're talking about. But the problem is they exploit it because the money...
The cost is obscene, yeah.
And the money has become so massive now with the American football, baseball, basketball. Like they get 100,000 people watching their college games, which is a most amazing thing. But then it gets exploited because do those kids actually get held accountable to do their work? Because I don't think
some of the talent just is too strong, and they just think.
And you hear these stories of people doing their exams for them just to meet the GPA that the NCAA have said they've got to meet. And you just think, the answer to every question is follow the money.
Yeah.
Any corruption, follow the money.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Nirvana, in a pure sense, our education system would be better, wouldn't it? Our football education system would be better, and every sport club system would be better, and it wouldn't be this obsession with making it whatever that means. It would just be human development through things, through participation in things, and then see where you end up. Because what I have found, and I'm interested to hear what you think about this, Joel, what I have found with the pupils that I have or been part of my education in my program is that they were able to be motivated to live their lives after football. So they didn't feel guilty at whatever time it was, whether it was 18, 22, 25, 30, when football as a profession wasn't an option anymore. And that was always my biggest aim, because I've seen what happened when kids get released, and I was one of them. Like the mourning, they say, lasts for a year. Like, it's just so hard to get over, especially when you've been in it for so long. And what you find with those young people, if they then have nothing else, they don't have any motivation to do anything else. They don't want to use actually this amazing talent of mind that they've developed being in this elite environment. They don't want to use it. And people I know would take nearly a decade, get released, not find a career till about 28, 29. It's like, wow, you're actually an awesome human being. To do what you've done in that system, sacrifice so much. You're an awesome human being, which is probably in the top 5% of human being understanding, right? But you just think you're rubbish. You think you're not worth anything. So another thing I was able to do in that program in a school is just to recalibrate their minds to the truth, by the way, not to brainwash them, but to the truth that they are an awesome human being and they are capable of whatever it is they want to do. And by them doing it, they are worth their worth. If they become an accountant, that doesn't mean they're worth less because they're not a footballer. So actually, you're worth even more because you have found what you want to, or you've been so courageous to go, actually I need to make a living and I'm happy doing that, and that's okay. I mean, I know loads of professional footballers and they are deeply unhappy, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Is that worth it? Is that worth it to say, I play in the Premier League, to be deeply unhappy?
Yeah.
I mean, as we all get older and get wiser, we realise the answer to that question is no, it's not worth it.
I think the thing that I found especially was when I first went to Bradfield and I was...
Yes, fine.
the thing that I found was when I first went to Bradford, I've never been an arrogant person, but I think for the first time in my life I went in thinking I've just been at a Premier League academy for 7 years.
The top level of academy football.
And then going to this school, and then the big thing that I sort of, when I talked to Sam, who I came with, we went and did our first training session, played in some of the games, and after the first month, we'd talk to someone, and they were going to leave at the end of the year, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're going to go and sign for someone." That's what we were expecting, and they were like, "No, I'm just going to go to university and do this," and we were just like, "How?" We couldn't get our head around the mindset of you're that good at football, but you love playing football, you love doing it, but it's not something that's so. It's not massively important to you, and you're so happy just going to university and being an amazing job or whatever. And is that something that, I don't know, what was your experience with? Did you have something when you were that age that you were just solely focused on the football, or was it something what was your experience in terms of that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to joy. Like you use the word happy, and I would say it's joy. And then what is joy? Joy for me is engagement in a moment. So if you're able to engage in the moment and then the next moment and the next moment. So sometimes you're unhappy when you're joyful. Sometimes you're crying and you're experiencing loss or whatever, but you're joyful because you're allowing that emotion to come out completely. And when did I... See, the irony of this is I never had me. So I guess the truth to answer that question would be I still haven't liberated myself from the part of my ego that wants to prove, like the worst P's, right? Prove, pretend something you're not, please people, and perfect. Like they are the... If one of those four or more, one of those four are running your life, then you're in a bad place at that moment. And over the years, I've had to find my own strategies to do it, and I'm getting closer and closer and closer. But I teach people how to do it way better than I've ever been able to do it myself.
Yeah.
So I don't think... Is that what your question was? When did I feel...
Like you weren't just going to be... You didn't have that...
Sort of like the detachment from the identity of
and
just being a footballer.
Yeah, and you're happy just being this amazing coach and not just going for sort of as you were growing up to have that contract or...
Yeah, I don't think I realised it till very recently that I haven't dealt with that trauma properly. It was an academy manager posted something on LinkedIn about how he was sick of all the criticism academies get and how actually academies are doing an amazing job. And I just got so angry with it.
Yeah.
I was so angry with it. Because I never want to blame anyone. Like, even the coaches that made me feel really bad about myself, it wasn't their fault. It's their responsibility, which they should learn from and get better as coaches, but it wasn't their fault. It's never anyone's fault. If we blame, then we're never going to see it. And I thought, why is this making me so angry? And dealing with dealing with clubs, when you have someone who's at a club at your school, and then dealing with the clubs where you're trying to work together with them, and it just never works because you're trying to make decisions for what's best for the child, but the club
is financially motivated.
Yeah, and they just want them.
Yeah.
All the time because they think that your program is not
as good
as their program, and that just really triggered me again. And I was like, why is this triggering me? Because I hadn't had that at where we were for so long. Because actually, I created a program where the school was the club.
Yeah.
And we didn't have players who were at clubs there, and it worked so much better because everyone was just committed to it. So I don't think I've dealt with my trauma properly from it. I don't think people have really researched the trauma properly. I mean, we were in this system at an age that our minds were not developed, 9, 10, 11 years old. And you go through it thinking that is your identity completely. And then suddenly you have to work out how to live in a world where you can't do it anymore. It's like, how am I meant to do that? I mean, that process is over a decade, and what that does to your mind, I don't understand how anyone is meant to then find joy. But then that's why it was an interesting experiment for me to do it in that setting that I did it. And like you said, people were finding joy when they left. So, oh, wow, yes, it does work. And I guess that leads us to your earlier question of, could you do it in any setting? Yeah, I think you could. You just got to change the narrative to the truth. Because the truth is, this great video on YouTube, really quick one, where it goes, you are like a tiny speck in a massive landmass, in a huge world, in a huge solar system, in a huge galaxy, in a huge universe, and you think you're important. It's like, you think what you do. Yeah, you think what you do is important. So yeah, actually, what is the reason? What is the reason? Yes, we want to progress, like humankind. We want to progress it, right, so we can survive and not destroy our planet and all that stuff. And I watch football sometimes and go, why have I put all my effort into, even coaching, why have I put all my effort into becoming amazing at this game? It's a game. Like when I watch Star Wars sometimes, I'm like, God, imagine if the world was like that. No one would care about football, would they? You'd be going to different planets all the time. No one would care about football. But then I guess the reason I do it is because I will hope to inspire someone way more intelligent than me to have a greater effect on people and on the world. And I think that's too grandioso when you say, I want to affect on the world. I've come to realise that the only thing that actually changes the world, if you like, is individual responsibility. Your decision as an individual in your next action. If that comes from a place of evil, then it's going to make the world worse. If it comes from a place of good and connection, it's going to make the world better. So I guess a pilgrimage, if you like, or a journey to use football to do that. And by the way, along that journey, you end up creating some amazing teams of football, which play some really good football, which is good fun.
Let's delve into that. So what are your sort of success stories over the years? What are your sort of, favourite players and teams that you've coached?
Oh my word, you can't ask me who my favourite players are. Because I don't, actually, Joel knows this, I don't have any favourites.
Sure.
And in a way, I'm not just saying that to sound pretentious, I'm saying it because genuinely I don't see someone or what they do as then a recognition of them. So I see it completely equal.
Yeah, because Callum McFarlane went to Fulham doesn't mean that he's any better from the lad who went to university.
Exactly.
They develop the same, that's your...
And even as a footballer, I mean, Callum is obviously a very good footballer because he wouldn't be where he is now, but when I would choose the team in his final year, I wouldn't think, oh, Callum's so much better because he did this over the last 6 months. It's like, no, this is the solution we've got to try and find today. Is he showing in training that week that he's ready to find that solution? If he's not, and actually Callum's really interesting, I don't know if he spoke about this on his podcast, and I know he won't mind me saying this, is his learning journey was so courageous. Like, it wasn't like he came into the school and everyone was like, oh, he's going to be a professional footballer. It wasn't like that. He had to improve so much, and when you have to improve that much, you have to go through some really low moments where you're like, am I good enough? Oh, I've got to, but I can't believe that because then I won't work really hard, which is what I've got to do to become good enough. And I was really, like, again, didn't treat anyone differently. I was just so truthful with him. I was going to use the word harsh then, but I don't like that word because my whole thing is truth. If you're not moving your first touch, or you're not taking it on the back foot, or not running in behind when the space is there, or not hold up play properly, or not 1v1, I will tell you. If you do it once, then I won't tell you. But if you keep doing it throughout the week, I will tell you. Even if you then have a tantrum towards me and throw your toys out of the pram, I will keep telling you. And then I will circle back and say, why did you act like that? Because that's not helping. Let's help each other. And I will have that courage, because that is hard for me to do that. It's a lot easier for me when I've got a 17, 18-year-old having a tantrum, just letting them have a tantrum because I don't want to get involved, because then I don't... Do I feel like I know how to deal with it? I don't know. So I have had some players over the years, though, who have just been really fun to watch, and it's like when you watch Strictly Come Dancing, the people that are loved are the ones that have progressed throughout the 12 weeks.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I remember the most. Wow. Oh my God, that is progression, that is improvement, that is like blood, sweat and tears and effort every day. But also courage to do that while being open to listening and learning. And I think when Joel's year started, it was almost like 10 years of battling to get the system in place. I think Joel's year was one of the first years where you benefited fully from the system as a whole, all the holistic stuff, the yoga, the dance, the boxing, everything, the psychology, the analysis, it was all in place beautifully. And then since that period, there's been so many boys who have progressed so much. I mean, Joel's one for me was his realisation after a month. Like that one, I will always remember that, because I love being challenged, and Joel really challenged me, didn't you, at the start, where it was like, I don't know if this is good enough for me. I don't think this is right. Like, I don't think it's going to progress me the way I want. And I remember, I think I said to you, I was like, just let's revisit it in a month's time. And if you still feel like that, I will support you and I'll find you somewhere else. But in my head, I was like, I know he will, once he feels it. Because you still had that, like you said, I was at Reading, and I should be at another football club. And if I'm not, then I'm not going to progress the way I want to. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but that was, for me, I was so proud that you had the courage. And then you just became this amazing leader of the group in the next year, and even that first year. It happened so quick for you, and I was like, wow, that took a lot of something that not many people have, that resilience, that courage, that vulnerability to go, yeah. And actually, even though you look around and go, most of these boys are not at professional football standard, but they will play good enough to make me better.
Yeah. It's when you go from the realisation that it's like, well, the first time it was like, I think it came from sort of, I wasn't as good as some of the other players, and that was like, I've just been at a Premier League academy, and I've come to a school and I'm like struggling to get in the team. I was like,
what's going on?
Yeah, literally. But and then I think just opening yourself up to it, and then that's something that I've taken with me throughout everything, going to uni, going to different universities, and just opening yourself up to it. And I think that's something that a lot of young people, sort of, especially at academies, you're not going to get, because they're so fixated on the contracts and playing for a certain club and whatever, and it's so hard to get that, I think, in the academy.
Well, the pain is too much, I think. Like you just described it there so beautifully, that you were in pain, feeling that you'd been released, so you had that feeling of I'm not good enough, and you go somewhere where you're meant to be the best, and you weren't at that moment. God, you had two choices then. You could have either gone, oh, fuck this, this is ridiculous. I should be. I'm better than this, even though I'm not, but I am. And this is what people do. They ignore the actual truth of the situation, and they end up getting worse and worse and worse in their own minds. Or you could just say the most courageous thing and go, yeah, I'm not as good right now. But if I trust in this person, in my teammates, in this process, I might be. And I think that's the decision you had to make. You had to decide whether you trusted it. And I think you did eventually, and then you thrived as a result of that. I mean, that first year especially, it was so much fun. Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah. We thought when we won at MK Dons and the players that we had there, and we talked to Callum, when Callum said the same thing. It was like some of the players there were just like ridiculous standard.
Yeah.
Because I was almost angry to them when you're like, why are you not going and playing for whoever and watching, going getting scouted and everything, and that's what that anger towards them was like. I genuinely couldn't believe it when you had all these amazing players that were just going to go to uni, but were so happy with themselves.
Do you know what it does though? Is like the network of you guys now, and I think there's over 100 of you, maybe over 150 of you, like over the 15 years that went through that program. When you guys meet up with each other, even the ones that you've never met before, and you learnt from that syllabus, I guess you want to call it that, forget football. Like when I talk to the alumni of the program, they never talk about football when they get together. What they talk about is the level of understanding of decisions and approach to things and daily life and how they now use that in their other stuff. You always have this commonality between you guys of like I guess a higher plane of understanding. And I always say, like, all the alumni, my aim is to like give this knowledge that I know, but then you guys will then take it away with your own perception and minds and experiences, and you will become way more intelligent than me. And then all I ask is that you share that knowledge that you then gain back with me. Because it's true. It's like when the apprentice becomes the master. That is the aim of it. And I think as an educator, to be a really good educator, you have to want that to happen. If you want to have power over always and always be the expert, always be the mentor to these people, you're never going to be able to educate them. You've got to want them to become better than you, more intelligent than you, better educators, better managers, better teachers, better CEOs, whatever. And I think in 20, 30 years' time, so many of those young people that went through that system are going to be in very influential positions. And even if they're not, because maybe they don't want to be part of that toxic power culture, they will be influencing people positively somewhere.
As a result,
exactly. But I think like what I wanted to touch on what you guys were saying, that the reason you talk to people on this podcast is to talk about different ways, right? Different ways of doing it. And I have never been able to convince someone who's at a football club, even if they've got released from that football club, to come to my program straight away.
Never.
Ever.
Wow.
Straight away.
Yeah.
Ever. And now I've had however many 6, 7 professional footballers sign at 18 from it. So even with that, never. And even now. So I've done my recruitments, I'm doing it at the moment for next September. And these boys and girls have been released, and it's like, come to my program, this is what I've done, this is what I can do for you. Oh no, I want to be a football club. So is it disheartening? Yeah, a little bit, because there's so many people out there who are true student athletes, like in their heart. Because that's what this program is for. It's for true student athletes, people that need football to be good academically and need academics to be good at football. And you know if that's you, right? We all know it. Even if we think we're just footballers, you know that you have a longing for more. But trying to get that message out there, because it's so difficult. If I'm trying to sell it to parents and pupils, of course I'm going to say it's amazing because I want them to come here. And I always say, you will never know how good it is until you come here. But you only come here if you want to come here.
Yeah.
So it's a horrible vicious cycle.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about sort of managing or coaching or taking because you've worked with a lot of under 18s and younger players, have you ever thought about in more of a senior role, or in terms of going into a senior team, or like older players and established sort of not even professional non-league teams or older lads?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wanted to understand more if the way I taught would resonate with adults, because I knew it worked obviously over a decade with under 18, 16, 17, 18 year olds, but I thought people used to say to me, my friends in football would say to me, oh, this would never work with adults. Like, they would just think it was stupid. And because, I mean, we don't have time to touch on it, but like, you know, Joel, it's quite in depth and it's quite open and honest, isn't it? It's the kind of stuff that if someone heard you talking about it who didn't understand it, would go, what are you lot talking about? It's that kind of stuff. So now I wanted to experiment a bit with it, and I got lucky that I did my futsal courses and I only did them because I'm not allowed to do any more FA courses because I don't work in a football club. Which is ironic, right? I know, it's crazy. So I was like, okay, I want to keep learning about the game. Where do I go? If my own governing body can't provide, what do I do? And then I came across futsal. I actually stumbled across it because I was trying to develop a whole pathway, because I'd done it in the sixth form at the school for ages, come in at 16, do it for 2 years, but I wanted to do it for kids who came at year 9 as well. And they would do football from September to December, but then when the next term came, so after Christmas, they would do hockey. And then I tried to do like a 11-a-side Sunday fixture programme, but all the games just getting called off. And also I was realising they weren't improving that much in terrible weather. Playing hockey and football, obviously, too tired. So I just started looking into futsal and just fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, this is football on heat. Like, this is like, the detail, because I'm all about detail. Like, the detail that you learn as a player and as a coach just is it's like you've got 3 microscopes, whereas before you had 1 when you watched football, and now you've got 3. And then you take those things which are completely transferable into football. So did all my futsal qualifications, and my last one, which is the UEFA B in this country, I just got lucky. Like, it's not just about talent, is it? It's about luck as well. That the head coach and the academy manager at Bloomsbury futsal were on it with me. And, you know, and this is why you should always stick to your values, because even if hardly anyone believes in your values, sometimes there will be someone who does. And we just connected. And actually John Current, who is like the head of Bloomsbury futsal, he was at Arsenal as well, which I didn't realise. He was a few years younger than me.
Wow.
So we kind of bonded over that and our pressure issues at Arsenal. And Juan, who is the head coach of Bloomsbury currently, and also on the men's performance coach pathway as well. Just one of the most amazing coaches I've ever come across. Doesn't have all his qualifications yet. And this is where, like, okay, yes, you should get your qualifications, but just because you don't have them doesn't mean you're not amazing. And just because you have them doesn't mean you are amazing. It's not about the badge you wear, it's about your substance in language and conversation. And they really connected with my human performance education syllabus, and obviously I was learning futsal. I wasn't at their level in futsal. Like, John had played for England, Juan obviously coached Bloomsbury and pro futsal for that, and really high level in the country, and the coach in Spain as well, where it's professional. And I was just like, I just want to be around you guys. And I was full-time at the school as well. I just haven't got time, but I would love to. And for that year, I went up 2 nights a week, Sundays, and I just wanted to be around them and learn from it. And they wanted my human performance education stuff. So it was a good experiment for me. Does this work on adults? And a lot of these players were international futsal players for England. That was the time that the England futsal had been disbanded. The FA disbanded it, but they were international futsal players. So this was, like, theoretically the highest level in the country of futsal players. So they would have all the ego, all the blocks and stuff. And it was the most amazing 12 months. Absolutely exhausted me because I was doing a full-time job plus that. But it was great to just go, oh, it does work. And not only did it worked more with adults. And
why do you think that?
Yeah, so I reflect on that. And I think my best answer for you right now is because they need even more help. So if we think, I always draw this stick man, and I put loads of circles around it at the beginning of a season, right? And I'm like, that's you. They're your blocks. They're the things that are blocking your talent. Now, what are they? And for me, there's 4 things. Fear, ego, intellect, and thoughts. Now, there's loads of things that stem off each of those 4 things, but they are the 4 things that block our talent. My job is to then help you remove those gradually. So imagine you're a kid and you're developing all these blocks, because these blocks get created by the external environment, don't they?
Yeah.
You suddenly perceive, you become fearful. Like, fear is not real. Fear is your perception of a situation. You have all these negative thoughts. You start overthinking things with your intellect and your ego, which we need, by the way. We need our ego because it stops us killing people. It makes us stop at red lights. Like, we need our ego. What we don't need is the part of our ego that goes, what are you doing? You're rubbish. Like, you're not good enough to do this. Stop doing this. We don't need that part of our ego. So imagine you've gone through that as a teenager. Now you're 18 and still haven't dealt with it. Now you're 19, now you're 20, now you're 21, now you're 25, still haven't dealt with it. Those blocks will become more intense.
Compounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but also by that point, you're wise enough to go, I want a better way. I don't want to be blocked. So these men were like, yeah, wait, are you saying you've got a solution? I was like, well, we can explore it.
Yeah.
And it was the right time for me. I was good enough at that point to be able to respond to very varied parts of the team. There were some that were 3 or 4 that were really into it, like were on it, just wanted it, and they were the most fun to work with because I only had 12 months. They were so much fun to work with, and I hope I had an influence on them, but it was them that accessed the knowledge to then influence themselves. There was like that middle group who were a bit like, yeah, I really do want it, but I'm a bit scared to actually do it. They were tough, but enough of them got on board, and then there were the really sceptical ones, like, this is a load of crap, like, what are you talking about? And it was people in that group, once like they'd won the league and got to Champions League, when they messaged me and was like, this really helped these people realise how to unleash what they were good at, like their talent, and be more open with each other and just be more collective. And that just made me feel great. Now, I also got to coach futsal as well, which was amazing. I was so nervous when Juan said to me, do you want to take a session yourself? I was like, why am I so nervous? I've been coaching football for so long, but futsal is so much faster.
Yeah.
So I'll give you this analogy. Football, match starts, you have about 5 minutes, 10 minutes to maybe assess the opponent's formation, where the spaces are, what you could do. Substitution, you probably make 2 or 3 a game. Yeah. Probably not till 65 minutes. Yeah. Futsal, it is rolling subs constantly. The space, I mean, the amount of combinations that literally happen like that, just constant. Every set piece, you're in danger of conceding a goal. Every attack, you're in danger of conceding a goal because the pitch is
just proximity alone.
Yeah, exactly. It is just crazy. So I once took an NFS game, National Football Series game, on my own as well, and I said to one afterwards, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, but I thought you need like 2-3 managers.
To work out the subs and all the tactics, and then actually where's the solution, and then all the human stuff, because people coming off frustrated and stuff, and it's like, oh my word. But I always say to everyone who wants to coach football at a high level, if you have not learned how to coach futsal, then you're not going to be as good a football coach as you can be.
Yeah.
All the fundamentals, do you remember our 9 fundamentals that we had? The 9 fundamentals, when I've written my futsal philosophy book, they're exactly the same as in football. Apart from there's one, back foot receiving in football is front foot receiving in futsal. But apart from that, everything is exactly the same. So, and then the experiment worked at the school where year 9 and 10, they did futsal for 3 months. And Callum's year was so Callum didn't do that because he came in sixth form, but Callum's year was the first year from year 9 that did futsal full time, and then did the elite football program. And that team probably was the best school team of all time. The way they played football, I mean, they were doing blocks and screens in the final third. No one does blocks and screens. Like, they might do it from a corner, but no one does it in open play. Game of 2s, game of 3s, 3 in the lines, like all these futsal moves, which no one does in football because no one's ever actually looked in that detail. And that kind of excites me to go, okay, I now know it works with young players. I know it works with adults. I know it works with difficult adults. Unleash me on people of the highest talent. Yeah. What could we create? Because I think that's what the fun of a game is. You play a board game or whatever game, you're like, how do I win this in the most spectacular way?
Entertaining way.
Yeah. How do I do that? And I don't want to be entertained like that. That's not my aim.
It's to win. Ultimately.
It's to win, but also I'm very lucky, or what I think, that the best way to win is an entertaining way.
Yeah. Of
football. Like City interests me at the moment because Guardiola's Barcelona was one of the most amazing teams to watch, wasn't it? It was just mind blowing. His Bayern Munich team, I thought, were quite stale in possession. They kept possession for the sake of possession. And now his City team are really interesting for me because they get accused of being boring, don't they, sometimes? And I look at it and go, I understand what people are saying because it is stale sometimes. But then I think, is he doing that because he thinks the Premier League is so intense that if he's going to guarantee winning the Premier League, which he has, then he has to just destroy games sometimes? Because like a Liverpool, like their intensity, can you keep that going throughout the whole season. I mean, they proved they did one season, didn't they? But could you win like all 4 trophies in it? I don't know. But I look at City going, I don't think City are as good as his Barcelona team.
No.
And I know they don't have Messi, and I know that makes the big difference.
I think personnel is...
Yeah.
But I've found it this season. Obviously, I watched them at Luton the other week, and they were... I was expecting... My dad's like... The other fans are like, oh, they're boring, they're just passing around the back. But it wasn't as exciting as what I thought it would be. They weren't as... I mean, obviously, Luton sat back a bit, but it was interesting watching them play in their own half and moving it forward, and they couldn't quite break into Luton, and Luton...
It's a space thing, it's a tight pitch at Luton,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
So it's
that's what I mean. I said this once on my A licence as well. It got laughed at the time. But I still stay with it. Basically, when I studied his Barcelona and his Bayern Munich team, for me, the one difference was, apart from Messi, is the Barcelona team were prepared to lose the ball. Whereas the Bayern Munich team, I don't know whether it became such an obsession for him of control. He just had to keep the ball almost the whole game. Whereas if you're going to say what are all the strategies to beat a low block, for me, one of the main strategies is to give the ball away, to then counter-press when there's disruption and chaos, to then score.
Yes.
Because most goals are scored within 3 passes. So how do you create that when you're a possession team? And then people say, what, you intentionally want to give the ball away, Luke? It's like, no, I don't intentionally want to give the ball away. I'm not going to go, here you go. Yeah. But I'm going to play that ball that I think might get there, might not, to then create that chaos, to then counter-press. Because as soon as the opponent in transition thinks they now have the ball, they change. Yeah. Their mindset in that split second changes.
And in that City game, they scored from 2 Luton mistakes as well on the counter.
Because I watched them against Villa, and I was so excited. I went to the game, I was so excited to watch them. But Villa just completely dominated them.
Yeah, who are your sort of favourite coaches at the moment? Obviously, you talked about Pep, but sort of what are your other favourite coaches at the moment that you're sort of studying?
So I love coaches who give an image of the game which is helpful to society. There is a coach in the Premier League who it's very much wants to dominate the opponent, and if it doesn't go right for him, then it's someone else. And there are more than him who do that. We can use the referee as a perfect example. The amount of times coaches come on and will just blame the referees. And it's giving just a terrible image of society and football. Because grassroots is where the disrespect is the worst, by the way. The Premier League, it's not actually that bad because of the accountability of the TV. Can't get away with it. Yeah. Exactly. Grassroots, oh my God, it's horrific. Kids football, Sunday League football is horrific. And football should be joyful. We should be going to play. I get laughed at this as well, but the way I approach a game is I play with the opposition, not against them. Because without them, there is no game. Also, the opposition are going to show me, if they beat us, I'm grateful, because they've shown us things that we need to get better at. If we beat them, then I'm grateful for them testing us to enforce us to do something to find a solution. And we're grateful for them, and we're grateful in our win as well. Can you imagine? Like, people then say to me, oh no, but that's not a winning mentality. It's like, what are you talking about? So I'm still going out to win, because the game is score more goals, concede fewer. I want to win the game. But I'm just not treating people with the disrespect that they don't deserve. We have all turned up for the game. We are playing with each other. Same with the referees. Like, thank you so much. This took me quite a while to become 100% in. Not because I was disrespectful to referees, I wasn't. But I would say I was 90% like this. Because remember, my dad played under Brian Clough. Brian Clough was like big on respecting referees. So it was always in me. Why would I blame the referee? It was my bad pass or my bad tackle that gave the penalty away. Like, what? Why am I blaming the referee for that? There was one when I played for Hereford once where in our box, and the opponent went to shoot, and the other opponent went to nick the ball away, and the opponent hit his teammate's leg really hard, and the ref gave a penalty, even though he tackled himself or tackled each other. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's not the right decision, but I understand. So my immediate thought was, I understand why he gave that, because it looked like it was.
You see that a lot,
Yeah, so I went over to the assistant and I said, I just want to see if you saw that in a really calm way. And he went, go away.
I hate when
I know. And but again, my immediate thought was, I understand why he's like that, because he's been abused his whole career, so I get it. And I said what I wanted to say. All my teammates then rushed over and was like, I was like, please, this is not going to help the situation. The referee then did go and talk to him, and he did see it, and he did rescind the penalty. And even if he hadn't, it's like, what's your first thought? What is your first thought when something goes wrong? That it's someone else, or are you going to take 100% responsibility? When I lose a game, when one of my teams loses a game, it is not anything else apart from what we did. And what was that? If a referee decision did happen in the 96th minute, where we conceded 1 goal and lost 1-0, which by the way happened in an ISFA Cup final once, penalty in extra time, which could have been a penalty but could not have been a penalty, but I can see why he gave a penalty. So my analysis after the game, we didn't do enough to create chances, we didn't do enough to score the goals, we didn't do enough to stop. Actually, one of my main solutions now, it was from kick-off, second half of extra time, is from kick-off we always block. Because my 2 wingers went to press, left my fullback isolated, they pinged it to their winger, was then at my fullback, one-on-one, he's tired in the last bits of the game, he dives in, gives away a shoulder barge penalty. So actually I've learned from it. I wouldn't have learned from that if I'd have gone, because it was Martin Atkinson that was the ref as well, so it was Premier League ref. If I'd have gone, what's...
Teenager, you might have gone,
So I love, at the moment, I love Ange because he is being successful at the moment. He has gone through a dip, but I'm going to wait till he's really fading to see if he still sticks to it.
Yeah.
The one guy who stuck to it, whether he was successful or failing, was Graham Potter.
Yeah.
And that's the true test. People say to me, who do you support? I'm like, no one really. I'm a lover of the game. And then I sound really pretentious. But truthfully, my son said it to me all the time. He's 9. He's like, who are we supporting today, Daddy? I'm like, whoever plays the best, mate. And I went to that City Villa game thinking, I just can't wait to see good football here. And I was so happy Villa won because they were really good.
Yeah.
And that saying as well, the better team, we were the best team but we lost, is a load of rubbish. And when anyone says that to me, I will challenge them straight away. You lost, which means they were the better team. Because the game is about scoring more and conceding fewer. So don't ever tell me you were the best team when you lost, because that is physically impossible. Unless you want to change the game. Because when they go, we had 70% possession. Okay, well then if the game is who had more possession, then you did win. I get it, but you didn't win the actual game. And then you might say, well, why is that so important to you? Why is all of this so important to me? Learning. Improving. We have arranged a match of football between us and an opponent with referees and linesmen. It's a big thing to arrange that. You train all week for it, and then everyone comes to watch and you play it. I am not going to waste that moment by making excuses that are illusions to make myself feel better, when actually we did that game, we trained all that week to work out how to get better. And I think this is another reason why I want to be at the highest level, where I want to see if this can help society. There's only one language everyone speaks, and that's success. So if I can be successful doing it this way, and by the way, there is another reason why I am this way, and it's because I think it's the best way to win. So I think being respectful is the best way to win. Why? Because your mind is on the task no matter what. I think taking 100% responsibility for your actions is the best way to win, because you're not blaming stuff and you're actually seeing the learning. I think understanding that the game is about both boxes. That's how you win football matches. Box to box will get you more chances or concede fewer chances at that end. So yes, that's really important, but actually winning and losing the game is box to box. Okay, great. Why? Why do I think that? Because it's about learning and improving. These young people that I coach then start learning and improving in other aspects, because they are human beings. So their relationships, their studies, their whatever. Like, you have an argument with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Do you blame them, or do you think, what was my part in that? We have a saying now: own your part.
Ultimate responsibility, isn't it?
100% as well, not 90%. Not so. Sometimes, isn't it their fault? No. Also, that language is wrong. It's not anyone's fault. It's responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's 100. What's the 100% responsibility for you? What, even if no. What could you have done in that moment? Oh yeah, maybe I could have done that. But yeah, exactly.
I think that's a perfect place to sort of leave it, Luke. That was fascinating. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. Very different as well to what we've had previously.
It would be.
It's a different lens as well from the coach, sort of his perspective versus the player. But I think what you're creating, there's such a clear sort of transcendence from player, academy player, injured, released, into sort of now academy coach and football coach in a school, and the environment you're trying to create is, it almost seems like everything that you wish you would have had in those early years, and that is sort of understandable. And I think that's a fascinating sort of curation that you're now doing in schools and everything like that.
Isn't that what entrepreneurs do though, right?
It is, yeah.
They see a problem with the world and try and fix it.
Yeah. Trying to chasing everything you don't have, hasn't it, really? But no, that's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
No worries.